The tools that have gotten our users these type of results have become even more powerful. And now with our completely revamped offerings, anyone can leverage Stochastic's cutting-edge products to dominate this football season. In addition to our contest simulation tools, we've added our new single lineup simulator where you can get instant feedback on the quality of your hand-built lineups in seconds. And all of our other industry-leading data will be waiting for you when you get here as well. So stop guessing and start winning with Stochastic.
What is happening, everybody? It's time for another MLB Live Before Lock. Myself and Eric here breaking down a slate, which luckily it's going to be locking at the same time on FanDuel and DraftKings. Not like yesterday where there was a 30-minute gap between the two slates locking. So same pitchers and offenses on the two slates. Do us favors you're watching, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are sponsored by Bet365. And yesterday, good slate back for me, Eric. Both of us did well. I know that you had some lineups that did really well in large field GPPs. I did really well with the Braves in single entry. So try to replicate it today. What's happening, Eric?
Not much. Yeah, it was nice. Shout out Sean V for the love. He obviously was looking down on us here. Spencer Torkelson going yard on his birthday. Nothing was more fitting ever. So shout out Sean V for that one. But yeah, it was a really good slate on Monday. Ready to rock here on Tuesday.
Yeah, and let's start talking about these pitchers here. And also, as per usual, if you guys have any questions for us, and already a shout out to Chris Williams, who gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. If you guys have any questions for us, hit us up in the YouTube chat. You leave a super chat. If you're a Stochastic subscriber, you get access to our Discord channel. Any package you sign up for does come with access to that Discord channel. Hit me up in there so I can see any questions that you guys have. And then also some other things to take note of, which Jordan was playing a little bit of a video ahead of time. Our college football packages, those are going to be locked tomorrow. We're going to have Sims for college football. There's going to be a sale for that. And then also next week, obviously, start of NFL season, we're going to be having an NFL sale going as well. We've got some new packages set up for football season this year, some packages at lower price points. That was something that was high demand last year. So we have set up packages that you guys could purchase for lower price amounts, which includes stuff like our single lineup simulator. So go check out our football packages, and sale, like I said, it's going to be starting next week. But if you want to get accustomed to what our packages are, go ahead and go check those out. But let's start talking about the pitchers here, Eric, and we'll group the 9K plus guys together. And this is where the chalk of the slate is. Now, with that said, there's really only one crazy popular pitcher. Then you got one relatively popular pitcher in Jack Flaherty. Flaherty 24% owned. Logan Gilbert is 51% owned. And then we don't have another pitcher on the entire slate pulling more than 15% ownership. Your other pay up pitchers, Dylan Cease, 13% owned. Spencer Schwellenbach, he's 15% owned. And then Logan Webb, 14% owned. Let's start with Gilbert because he's so much more popular than everybody else, Eric. Do you view the ownership as being too high, too low, or just right?
Like slightly too high. I have him in 44% of lineups. Logan Gilbert, this is a great ballpark for him to be pitching in. It's a great ballpark for any pitcher to be pitching in. It limits a lot of the runs, not necessarily just from a power perspective, but it doesn't hurt. And Logan Gilbert, he got tore up by the Dodgers, but this Dodgers lineup is so ridiculous against right-handed pitching that I'm going to kind of just write it off. 282 ex-WOBA for Gilbert on the season, 25.4% K rate. I can't say anything to the contrary on him. I think my main issue with him being 51% owned is that I like Dylan Cease at his ownership. I like Spencer Schwellenbach at his ownership. And I like Jack Flaherty at his ownership. I'm over on all 3 of them in the 9K/10K for Jack Flaherty range. And it's just taking it's taking Logan Gilbert down a little bit for me. Again, sitting right around 44, 45% of lineups, but kind of like getting to some of those other options and just kind of scattering the board amongst them because I think there's a lot of upside with Atlanta or with the Spencer Schwellenbach side going up against my Twins. I think Jack Flaherty, there's obvious upside facing his former team. Dylan Cease in St. Louis, the team with the 94 WRC plus over the last month against right-hand pitching. I think you just kind of want to be a little bit down for not game theory purposes, but as I sim everything out, I kind of like getting to a little bit more of everybody else.
Yeah, so I don't have an issue with the ownership on Logan Gilbert. I think it's just about fair cash games. You're very clearly playing Logan Gilbert. When I run everything through the Sims, he shows up as my most rostered pitcher. And also, single entry, I'm going to be playing Logan Gilbert today. I'm going to be getting different elsewhere. The pitcher I actually have the most issue with the ownership with on the high end is Jack Flaherty. 25% ownership to Flaherty is the most expensive pitcher on the slate. And also in a fairly difficult matchup here against the Baltimore Orioles. If you look at all the payoff options we have today, fair to say that of all the pitchers 9K and above, Flaherty has the most difficult matchup, Eric?
No. Have you seen Baltimore's number over the last month? Have you seen their numbers against righties over the last month?
A month doesn't mean too much to me. I still think this is the most talented offense. So the other ones, Cardinals, that's a no to me.
Mm-hmm.
Rays against Logan Gilbert, that's a no to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Orioles are a better offense than them. And I know that the Twins offense has been better in the second half of the year. I still think the Orioles have better offense than the Twins, though.
Yeah, I'm not going to negate that potentially, but like, no Ryan Mountcastle. He's been out for a long time, and that's been a little bit of an issue for them. I know that they've gone the O'Hearn side of the platoon there at times and avoided from having both of them in those lineups right from Mountcastle. But still, I will say that that's an above average hitter that they are missing on a day in, day out basis. You go through the numbers here for outside of like the first week he got back up to the bigs, Jackson Holiday, he's been pretty brutality. Gunnar Henderson has definitely regressed in a major way in the course of the last month. I think there might have been a little bit of fatigue. And then Eloy Jimenez, like he's been subpar. They have Cedric Mullins projected back in this lineup today. We'll see if he is in there, but it's kind of just been, I would say, floundering. It's kind of been a floundering lineup here of late. And it's a good ballpark to be hitting in Dodger Stadium. Decent enough weather, wind blowing out. We've got some, decent spots there. But Jack Flaherty with his K props, it doesn't seem like it's being adjusted by the market. I mean, 6.5, he's still standing strong there. And I don't think because that we are trimming. And once again, Miami, Colorado, so cheap for the bats. Only 9 games. Pretty easy for me to get to the bats that I want to, even if I roster Flaherty at 10K. I don't think he's expensive enough to show what Baltimore's been for the last month in the absence of a number of pieces.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, even if you want to say that the Twins offense is potentially a little bit better than the Orioles, I don't quite agree with that. At the very least, though, you have to say Jack Flaherty has the second most difficult matchup. So I'm not disagreeing with that. All of the pay up options here, I'm the most underweight to Jack Flaherty between Flaherty, Cease, Gilbert, Schwellenbach. So once again, my preferred option here is Gilbert. He's super popular, though. If I want to get different, you had mentioned Dylan Cease. I think I agree with you there. If I'm going to pay up for one of these pitchers who isn't Logan Gilbert, Cease is the one I'm most apt to get to. With that said, my favorite pivot is actually going a little bit cheaper at pitching as opposed to spending up. There's a cheap option that I really like quite a bit for today. But if I'm going to rank these pitchers in terms of my order of priority for them, Gilbert 1, Cease 2, Schwellenbach 3, Flaherty 4.
I think that is just fine. I've got 2 cheap pitchers that I'm just jamming today. So I'm curious to see if they're the same too, or I'm assuming I have one of the same guys that you're jamming as well.
Yeah, there's 2 I like. It's almost certainly the same 2 guys, both projected for ownership in the teens. And we will get there, not quite next, but in a little bit. Pitchers in the 8K range, there's only 3 of them. Logan Webb, Brandon Pfaadt, Garrett Crochet. It's hard for me to trust Crochet at this point in the season. I know they've been a little bit more liberal with how deep he's been allowed to work into games, but that's relative to, a month ago, he was throwing like 2 innings or 3 innings in a start. I still find it very difficult to trust Crochet. Is that where you're at, Eric, or are you willing to play him when he is low owned in GPPs?
Garrett Crochet has not left has not entered the fifth inning once in his last 8 starts. I have 0%. I've had 0% since they started limiting the innings. I don't know what else to tell you. He's been limited to 55 and 57 pitches. He's like on an even more extreme in an innings limit, pitch limit. Like, it's absurd that he can still have stuff like 9 strikeout games against Houston in 55 pitches. Dude was on pace for like 15 or 16 against a team that doesn't strike out a lot, but they don't want him to go too far. And why would they? They are 100 loss ball club already on August 27th. They have nothing to play for. You should also just play 0 Garrett Crochet as a result.
Yeah, it's hard to get there. Like I was saying before, he's allowed to throw 4 innings in starts as opposed to the 2 innings he was getting a little while ago. He's cheaper now at $8K, so it's not like you have to pay $9,700 to get 3 or 4 innings out of Crochet. Still not enough realistic upside, especially on a slate that has enough games where there should be a lot of pitchers that are capable of outscoring him. And then if I look at the other pitchers in the 8K range, I like Logan Webb. I think he's a good pitcher. I just don't love him for DFS purposes because his lack of strikeout upside. And then the other pitcher that we have in this price range, it's Brandon Pfaadt, who I also like him. I think he's the most upside, all things considered, of any of these pitchers in the 8K range, but I just don't quite get there. I prefer spending up to the pitchers in the 9K range, getting to like a Dylan Cease or a Logan Gilbert. So let me see. What did I have?
Yeah, I have 8% Brandon Pfaadt. I have 6% Logan Webb. So I have a little bit less on a more popular Logan Webb. I have a little bit more on a less popular Brandon Pfaadt at 10%, but I'm under on both. I have 0 Garrett Crochet, and that's the 8K range. There's only 3 guys to really target and talk about, and I'm more than okay with that.
Yeah, and I was just checking my lineups. I have 3% of Brandon Pfaadt, and it's not like a knock on him. I think he's a good strikeout pitcher. There is some upside there, just like other pitchers more for today's particular slate. And I do see Jake DeWitt had brought something up in the YouTube chat, which I think is worth talking about, where he says, do we think that Crochet's limiting has changed now that Sizemore has taken over? And he says that he doesn't think so, but it's worth mentioning. The limitations to Garrett Crochet have 0 to do with the manager. It's a front office decision. It's partially a front office decision. Another part, it's a Crochet decision. Crochet had told them and other teams at the trade deadline that if you do not give me an extension, I will not pitch deep into games in the second half of the season. So it's Crochet, it's his agent, it's the team management, it's team doctors and all that. It just, the risk isn't worth it. The team's won, I don't know, what's the record? Like 30 and like 700 or something?
101 losses. They're a 100-loss team.
Feels like 200 losses.
It feels like 200 losses. Games. And not only that, I don't blame Garrett Crochet at all. Have you seen his contract?
Yeah, he's not getting paid almost anything. He would be paid.
He got paid a signing bonus of $4.5 million. He got a signing bonus of $4.5 million because he was a top 12 pick or something in the 2020 draft. He made $800K this year, and he's been the 3rd best pitcher in the American League in my model. Like, I don't know what to tell you. He's that dude. I have Tariq Skubal 1. I have Corbin Burns 2. I have Garrett Crochet 3. Cole Reagans 4. I mean, I basically just try to rank these guys. And let me just tell you, Crochet is making a little bit less money than those other 2. So shout out him for, standing strong on that. He's a guy who's got only 3 years of mileage on the tires. I was a little surprised that a team didn't want to come in and get a guy with a 4 WAR on their baseball club, but here we are. He's going to be awesome next year for whomever it is.
And I see we have a question in Discord from Clintwood83. He wants to know, who do we like for cash game pitchers today, as well as single entry? And then we also got a super chat from Chris Williams to hit on. So there's one part of this that's really easy. Cash games, Logan Gilbert. That's definitely going to be one half of the equation. Who do you like as your SP2 for cash games, though, Eric? Because I do think there's a lot of different directions you could go with a secondary pitcher.
My answer, I'm curious if this is going to give away where we're going. I think he's the most undervalued pitcher on today's slate. I would be playing Andrew Heaney as my SP2 in cash.
He is one of the cheap options that I like quite a bit for today.
Jeffrey Springs is the other. He probably has the better ballpark in the better game environment, and I'm fine with that. I have 38% Andrew Heaney. I have 32% Jeffrey Springs.
Those are, by the way, the exact same 2 cheap pitchers that I think are going under on today.
Yep, I had a feeling. Yeah, we're both doing the right thing. We're on God's side with this one.
I'm going to say Springs. He's my second most rostered pitcher overall on the slate. So I'm going to give him as my answer. I really do think, though, that there are so many different directions you can go that are acceptable. I think Jack Flaherty is a reasonable option. I think that Springs, Heaney are both reasonable options in their strikeout matchups. If you have the salary to pay up and maybe can't get all the way up to Jack Flaherty, I think that it's reasonable to go to like Spencer Schwellenbach. I'm most apt to go Logan Gilbert and Jeffrey Springs, my cash game combination. It's also the combination of pitchers that I'm playing in single entry. But the one thing for sure, Gilbert has to be one of them. The other one, I think you could almost build out the rest of your lineup, see how much salary you've left for your SP2, and then just plug in Heaney, Springs, Schwellenbach, Flaherty, whoever it is that just fits into the remaining salary.
I don't hate that at all. Yeah, for me, I think this is an awesome slate to just be flat with some exposure and then make some educated stands. And for me, the educated stands exist in that 7K range. And I think in cash, because of the bats that they would afford you potentially, I think there's some upside to get there because I don't know what you have for the projections. I'm looking here at Stochastic, looking at what I have here for Jeffrey Springs. I've got him closer to 18 fantasy points, and I've got Andrew Heaney at 18.5. I like them both a lot. And we're talking about a difference of 3 fantasy points from 21 and change for Jack Flaherty that I have and to those two. So if it gets you a lot of bats, 3 fantasy points giving up from a pitching perspective here today, considering, Greg brought up the points of Baltimore can be a proficient offense from time to time, even though they haven't for the last month or so, and they're missing a piece or two. I think Jack Flaherty is serviceable for cash, but I think I would be going to the cheap end today. Probably against the norm of just taking like the 2 most popular guys. It's Gilbert plus one of those 2 cheapies for me.
Bruce Williams left us a super chat asking us about the night slate. He says, you guys already know what's coming. Great show, guys. Thank you. For the night slate on DK, mind ranking our favorite pitchers in order. He loves playing Gilbert, but he's torn on an expensive Flaherty matchup. Not sure. He's playing 70 lineups. Pitching is loaded for the night slate, and most of the pitchers that we like for the main slate are on the night slate as well. Logan Gilbert, Jack Flaherty, Jeffrey Springs, Brandon Pfaadt is there also as a reasonable option. Then you got Sean Manaea, Cole Irvin rounding it out. So of the pitchers for the night slate, let's rank our top 4.
Okay.
And for me, that's going to be Logan Gilbert 1, Jeffrey Springs 2, Jack Flaherty 3, Brandon Pfaadt 4.
Exact same 4. I don't know how you do it any differently.
There we go. So Chris, good luck tonight. And yeah, those rankings, same for myself and for Eric, and pretty similar to some of my favorite pitchers for the main slate as well. If anybody else has questions in Discord, hit me up so that we could check those out. But talking about the rest of these pitchers in the 7K range, Eric, and I mean, we've already kind of tipped our hand here. I like Jeffrey Springs. You like Jeffrey Springs. I like Andrew Heaney. You like Andrew Heaney. You said you had a little bit more of Heaney than Springs. I have a little bit more Springs than Heaney, but it's whatever. They're both 15% owned. I think this is one of the most reasonable and easiest ways to differentiate a lineup is just play Heaney and Springs both in really good strikeout matchups. Jeffrey Springs pitching against the Seattle Mariners, Andrew Heaney pitching against the Chicago White Sox. And then you look at the team totals for the opposition as well at 4.1 runs for the White Sox, 3.8 for the Mariners. It's 2 of the lowest marks on the entire slate. The only teams that actually have lower implied run totals today, well, actually only one. It's just the Tampa Bay Rays going up against Logan Gilbert. So I love these cheap pitchers, and I'm kind of surprised they're not pulling more ownership right now.
I'm very surprised. And not only that, have people watched Andrew Heaney over the last couple of starts? Because the velocity's up a little tick and the strikeouts are coming along with it. I'm not saying that he's back to being the Dodger strikeout artist that he was. He was still getting blown up from time to time during that tenure, but you got to really like what Andrew Heaney started to put together here for this Texas Rangers team over the last couple, and 8 strikeouts against Minnesota, 8 against Pittsburgh. From a fantasy perspective, starting to piece it together. And obviously he's walking into a phenomenal matchup. It's a terrible game environment with the heat and everything else going on, but Chicago, 42 WRC plus since the All-Star break against left-handed pitching. Is that good?
Not great. It's not great. I mean, Andrew Heaney is somebody who I think I've been overweight to Andrew Heaney on every single slate that I've played with him on it for this year. I'm not playing him in single entry, but I certainly think there's a viable case for him there. he's never really all that popular. He's a solid pitcher. 4.04 ERA, 4.2 expected ERA this year, the 23.5% strikeout rate. And to what you said, Eric, is the strikeout rate the same as it was a couple of years ago? No, it's not when you have the 35.5% K rate with the Dodgers, but he's never all that popular. He's also inexpensive on basically every single slate he pitches on this year. So I always am interested in Andrew Heaney, somebody else that I like getting to today. Are there any other cheap pitchers that are of interest to you outside of Springs and Heaney?
Not in like a pronounced way by any means. I'm getting out of the late slate stuff here. Not really. Going through my lineups, I've got a little bit of Yariel Rodriguez. I have 2 shares of Miles Michaelis, which I'll probably get rid of by the end of this show because it's Miles Michaelis. Not really. I mean, I can make a case for some of these guys if you really want to differentiate a lineup in a weird way. Not going to be doing it with Roderick Munoz or Cal Quantrill in course today. That's for sure. Give me that over. But I think that pretty much does it. Simeon Woods Richardson. I mean, Atlanta does have that strikeout rate against righties. They also can destroy human beings. And I think Woods Richardson probably has to go, not for like crazy depth. I mean, the Twins were able to punt that game kind of correctly after being down 9-1. Bailey Ober, 9 earned runs in his last 7 starts combined, gave up 9 runs in 2 innings yesterday. Baseball's a fickle mistress, but I think SWR is okay to get to a couple of shares of, but I'm not going to go out of my way to say that you should go prioritize him. And Sean Manaea is tough to really land on. I thought I would get to more of him at 7%, but the way that I used to play DFS was simply like, oh, that ownership looks low. Let me get to Sean Manaea. And I think that's like the only reason that you could really point at that. He is a strikeout arm, but he's taking on an Arizona team that isn't striking out a bunch. Even against righties, they're finding a ton of success here. They have the best record in baseball since the All-Star break. They're putting all the pieces together. Even Corbin Carroll against lefties hasn't been complete dog shit. So everything coming up roses for Arizona at the moment. Probably not going to be taking low-owned flyers on Manaea there.
Yeah, same. I mean, the guys that I like for cheap, it's just the guys that we talked about. It's Jeffrey Springs. It's Andrew Heaney. If they were more popular, maybe I'd be looking for somebody to be mixing in, or I mean, the Sims might just give me somebody else, but I don't have any pitcher other than those 2 in more than 10% of my lineups who's priced under 8K today. So that's really it for me. I don't even really want to make a case for any of these other cheap guys. And yeah, you'd mentioned Corbin Carroll and the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think the Diamondbacks are like 2nd baseball in WRC plus since the All-Star break. A big part of that has been the team getting more so
Corbin Carroll not being unhealthy. He was not healthy to start off the season. I think you and I both said that. He didn't look right at the plate. The bat speed was way down too. Now that we have bat speed over on StatCast, it was something that I was kind of digging through because I'm trying to get more familiar with it, trying to see if I can integrate anything of it to potentially find an edge in the betting market. I don't think from a DFS perspective, I'm going to be doing a lot with bat speed, but Corbin Carroll was basically lingered at the beginning of the season, now running more, getting on base more, hasn't been completely deficient against lefties. And his OPS is way down from last year, 707 from 868 it was last year, but nice to see some of the bat tracking numbers. If you go through some of that, right around 74 miles per hour here over the course of the last, I guess that's for the entire season here, up from, I guess they're not going to tell me. That's great. Anywho, feel pretty good about that.
I'll add something about
74
Corbin
miles
Carroll
per hour.
Yeah, just something interesting to me about Corbin Carroll is his WRC plus has improved in every single month of this season. It was really terrible to open the year. So March and April, 58 WRC plus, dog shit. May, 68 WRC plus, also dog shit. Then you get into June, 107 WRC plus. Not the Corbin Carroll from last year, but all of a sudden it's like, hey, he's a slightly above average hitter. That's a positive sign. Then you get into July, 122 WRC plus. Now you've got somebody who's playing at an all-star level as a hitter. And now in August, 144 WRC plus, a guy who's been one of the best players in baseball over the course of this month. So yeah, Corbin Carroll's back. That's been big for them. And then also pitchers. I mean, like Zach Allen being healthy, Erod, he's back in the mix for them. It's a team that's going to be a problem in the playoffs that teams aren't going to want to play, considering they're going to be a lower seeded team. And now they're going to be healthier. They were in the World Series last year. But yeah, other pitchers, there's nothing else I like for cheap. Any final thoughts you have on the DraftKings pitchers? If not, we'll look at the FanDuel pitchers.
Let's go to FanDuel.
All right. So over on FanDuel, let's start with this. Play Logan Gilbert in cash. Easy.
Yes.
You only have to roster one pitcher in cash over on FanDuel. Gilbert's your guy. He's 36% owned over on FanDuel, $10,200 at home pitching against the Tampa Bay Rays. Easy. In a GPP, though, Eric, if you're building one lineup, do you go to Logan Gilbert or do you pivot off of him and get somewhere else?
Been staring at this for the last however long because I'm playing both sites today. I think fuck it. I'm just gonna go Andrew Heaney. Give me Andrew Heaney.
Yeah, I think Springs and Heaney both make a ton of sense on FanDuel as well. Springs, $8,700, 5% owned. Heaney, $8,000, 5% owned. And, you know, Logan Gilbert, yeah, obviously he's more likely to be the highest scoring pitcher and have success. But if you look at our top pitchers tool, he has about twice the chance of being the top scoring pitcher relative to Springs and relative to Heaney. But he's 7 times higher owned than both of them. And I don't think that there's a world where Logan Gilbert actually is outscoring each of them individually at a 7-1 clip. So with that being in mind, especially if you're playing like single entry, Logan Gilbert might be like 50-ish% owned in those kinds of contests over on FanDuel. That's where I do like going to either Springs or Heaney. On FanDuel, I lean a little bit more towards Heaney than I did over on DraftKings, where I lean towards Springs just because Heaney is $700 less expensive over on FanDuel. But either of them, I think, are really strong options. I think they're good pivots off of Logan Gilbert. Do you like any of the pay-up options on FanDuel as pivots off of Gilbert?
I like a little bit of Jack Flaherty, but he's more popular at 15%. So, I mean, 38% Gilbert. You're still getting the second most popular pitcher, I suppose. I do think Dylan Cease is at least a little bit interesting. It's been weird by his standards the last couple of starts. Not that I think that I should be weighting that heavily by any means, but the Mets, they got after him last Saturday, I believe it was. He's pitching on 4 days rest, but he had 5 days rest, I believe, between those 2 road starts that he had, Miami and Colorado. I don't know if he could necessarily put the foot on the gas the same way there in that Mets start here. But St. Louis has been far less functional at the plate. I brought it up before, 94 WRC plus against right-handed pitching over the last month. And even with the reinsertion of Lars Nootbaugh and a couple of these other guys from the left side, Brendan Donovan all season long, Alec Burleson, it's still been tough sledding for him here. They do have Lucan Baker in there batting cleanup today, but got to say, Lucan Baker, you know what he likes to do, Greg?
Tell me.
He likes to strike out a lot. Now, it's only at 22.2% this season, but that is with like a grand total of 4 batted ball events. Let's go back to the old minors here because he had a 32% strikeout rate in his last major league stint in 2023, which I think is far more indicative of who Lucan Baker is going to be. So with him out there today and with no Nolan Arenado, who doesn't strike out a ton in that lineup today, I think it's an upgraded strikeout spot. I'd be looking at Dylan Cease a little bit more for FanDuel. I mean, I'm over on DK, don't get me wrong, but I think on FanDuel, I think he's especially appealing. He pitches up to 100, 105 pitches every single time out. That's nice for the quality start. And then in an upgraded strikeout matchup, when you remove Nolan Arenado and you put Lucan Baker in batting third.
And also, if you guys want any of your lineups checked out in the single lineup simulator, throw them into chat. Jordan could plug them in. We can look at the simulated ROI on those lineups. And if there's any suggestions we have, if a lineup ends up being, like negative ROI, want to turn to positive ROI. I didn't hear from Jeff Williams yesterday, but he had a lineup. What was it? A Cardinal stack with Bailey Ober as pitcher. And we told him, no, take Bailey Ober out. Change your stack over there to the Atlanta Braves. I don't know if Jeff ended up doing it, but it would have been a preferable to stack against Bailey Ober yesterday and play him. So hopefully that's what Jeff ended up doing, but I don't know what his final lineup ended up being there. But any lineups that got submitted there, Jordan? I will take that as a no. But if anybody wants their lineups checked out, go and put it into the YouTube chat or at me in Discord, and Jordan can go ahead and plug those in. Also, if you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are sponsored today by Bet365. You guys want to know the easiest way to build your bankroll? Sign up at Bet365. Link is down below in the YouTube description box. You make a $10 deposit, just $10 over at Bet365. Place a $5 bet on whatever you want. It could be one of Eric's home run picks from his Discord channel. It could be something from the Odd Shopper, EV tools. It could just be something where you just feel like betting. It doesn't matter what it is you bet. It doesn't matter if it wins, doesn't matter if it loses. You're going to get $150 in bet credits from Bet365. If you or anybody know has a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER. Eric, do you have any bets that you're liking for today? Anything that maybe a sneak peek from your Discord channel?
Oh, I do. I like the Texas on the run line today, nearly up to plus 120 with Andrew Heaney on the mound. I was just on VSiN before this, breaking down the ins and outs of that play. A couple of other plays that I like. The Dodgers on the run line as well. Always nice. It's not intentional, but when you have 2+ money run lines and you know that if you go 1-1, you're splitting the difference and making a little bit of profit on the day. I don't completely hate that idea. Also looking at some interesting props. So brought up Dylan Cease before. I like his under 2.5 earned runs over at books. I like it at pick'em sites as long as you're paying neutral juice there, not going to like the 0.81x stuff that you see at some places. Under 2.5 earned runs for him against a St. Louis team that has been pretty inept. And look, Dylan Cease, despite the fact that he struggled at times, 7 of his last 8 continues to find ways to just limit the damage and pretty decent numbers in terms of strand rate. Hasn't been running particularly lucky in that regard to be able to accomplish that. So against the St. Louis lineup that just doesn't look very good to me today, love that play. Also like Spencer Schwellenbach over 17.5 outs. The strikeout projection isn't as good against Minnesota here, but this is still just a hobbled, ridiculous Minnesota lineup on a day-in, day-out basis. We got Edward Julian batting cleanup today. Max Kepler is back in that lineup batting 6th today, but he's been struggling at the plate. Santana, Jeffers, Martin to round it out. Don't like this iteration of it very much. Schwellenbach should find some depth here for Atlanta.
Yeah, and I see a lineup that Jordan plugged in there. Whose lineup was this one, Jordan's? All right. I saw Alex had some good lineups yesterday as well. I think we had a very similar Brave stack in the 121 single entry yesterday. And yeah, this lineup looks like a killer one as well. 58% sim ROI. It is, what is it, a Rangers and White Sox stack. And he's got Logan Gilbert and who's the second pitcher?
Spencer
Schwellenbach. It was hard. It's hard to see on. Okay, yeah, I can make the Brave symbol out there. So Schwellenbach. Yeah, I don't hate the White Sox as a stack today. I prefer the Heaney side, but I don't think there's some merit to the White Sox being a stack to be getting to as well. It's a team that I have some exposure to. And then I see some other lineups that are in there. Chris asked us a question about the NFL packages. Would you mind putting that up on screen, Jordan? The sign up page for NFL. There you go. Jordan never ceases to amaze me. I was like, boy, am I going to have to spell NFL for this guy? Because, he's had some issues like spelling TJ Friedel that one time, but NFL, he found it no issue there. So yeah, you guys can see here that we have different packages at different price points this year. We have the, and this is for the monthly. You could also click on the weekly, Jordan, and show if people just want something for week 1 of the season. But we've got the Essentials package. Some have been renamed. This is basically the lineup generator package, which also comes with projections for Pick'em for us. So that's going to be like, PrizePicks, Underdog, those kinds of sites. So less than $15 for that package. We've got our data packages now, also considerably less expensive. Weekly data package, less than $20. Also comes with our single lineup sims. And then we've got our sims packages in here as well. So we built some new tools, stuff that is a little bit less expensive for us to maintain. So it allows you guys to get access to some of our tools here for cheaper price points. So you guys asked for it, and that's what we went ahead and built here in the off season. So NFL sale, there's going to be one starting next week. If you guys do want to sign up for a package, I recommend just waiting for next week for that sale to start so you guys could save some money. But these are the new packages. If you guys want to check them out and figure out what it is that is best for you. Let's go back to some of those lineups, Jordan, because I saw some other people had plugged some stuff in there. So just build some of those lineups. We'll check out some of the results. We do have a question in Discord. It is 2 different ones asking us about single entry. First, Sick Hemi asked us who we want to play in single entry. He's asking for DraftKings, and Mr. Coolcam was asking for FanDuel. So let's address each of the sites individually. If you're building a single entry lineup for DraftKings, Eric, which team are you looking to stack?
For single entry, you said?
Yes.
Oh, it's kind of torn between 2. Colorado's the first one, and that's the chalky one, and the one that I'm worried gets jammed in single entry. And then Texas. I'm obsessed with Texas. We're getting positive leverage on them, 6.9% ownership share. Doesn't sound like a matchup at the beginning of the year that you'd want to be playing a ton of exposure against, considering it's Garrett Crochet, who is very, 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 very good at pitching baseballs. But think of everything we brought up before. One, that he basically is only going to be going 4 innings. And then two, any starter that you put up against the numbers for the bullpen from the White Sox since Michael Kopech got sent out at the trade deadline has them worse than the next starter existing on the board today, which almost seems impossible. But if you go through some of the numbers, we're talking like 5.30 xFIP since the All-Star break for the White Sox bullpen. They also basically have no platoon that they're going to be able to throw out. Now, obviously, there's a lot of guys out there that are going to go from lefties, but then facing all righties. But this version of the line that they rolled out there, I think we're not going to have a ton of pinch hit concern, considering, Ezekiel Duran there batting 9th, going through it. Robbie Grossman, the guy probably most worried about, and he's cheap at 2.8K, so I wouldn't be leaving him off by any means. It's 84 degrees there at first pitch. It is blowing out. It's still a really good game environment, 80% humidity, high dew point. I like the Texas Rangers, nearly a 5 implied total up against Garrett Crochet, and it's not because of Garrett Crochet, let me tell you that.
Yeah, and we've got right here a lineup. Whose lineup was this one, Jordan? Try saying that one more time.
Oh my dear sweet God.
Have you ever seen Star Wars in your life, Jordan? Yeah, have you heard of Chewbacca?
It's Wookiee, right?
Wookiee, you idiot, you fucking moron.
Why is it 2
Jesus
hours?
Christ.
Wookiee.
Wookiee. Yeah.
So this lineup, it's pretty neutral looking, 0.6 sim ROI. Let's see. He has, was it a 5-man Mets stack? He's got Springs and Gilbert as a pitcher. To me, there's just better stacks making than the Mets. I don't love the matchup that they have going up against Brandon Pfaadt. Let me see. Of the top 150 lineups I built out, how many of them are Mets stacks? Yeah, I don't have a single of my top 150 lineups as a Mets stack. It's just not a team I like all that much. It's a well enough constructed lineup considering you made a 5-man stack and you got pitchers that we don't hate. So it's not like a god-awful lineup or anything like that. I just prefer stacking other teams other than the Mets. Jordan, I also texted you a lineup from Ram33 that he sent to us in chat. So for by the way, do you have a final answer on that lineup? It seemed like you were leaning towards the Rangers.
Well, I'm playing 3-max. I'm not playing single entry today. So that's why I gave you that.
Fair enough. Yeah,
those are 2 of my 3 right now. And then third one, I'm generally just going to build out whatever you tell me for single entry. I've been doing that like the last 3 weeks without telling you.
Okay. I could appreciate that. So
yeah, it's a respect for you.
These are the 4 teams I get the most exposure to in large field GPPs, the Rockies and the Marlins, but I think they're going to be so heavily owned in single entry that I don't really want to go there. It's the 2 teams that have the highest top stack odds for us. They show up a bunch for me in the Sims. I do think it's very likely that one of these teams is going to be one of the top scoring teams. I mean, we've got in our data something like a third of the time on the slate, either the Rockies or the Marlins are going to be our highest scoring team. I just have ownership concerns in single entry. So then I have 2 other teams that show up a good amount from Eric. One of them is the Texas Rangers. And it's something that I think you brought up a really good point. I think it was 2 starts ago for Crochet, where he started to point out the White Sox just have a dog shit bullpen, and Crochet isn't going to be working deep into these games. So it's really a better matchup than it appears to be on paper. And we do have the Rangers with the 4th highest top stack odds in the top stacks tool. The one that I'm leaning towards right now, though, is the San Diego Padres going up against Miles Mikolas. Mikolas has not been very good this year. The numbers do suggest he's been a little bit unlucky because he's a 5.19 ERA and a 4.37 expected ERA. But his soft contact rate is way down over the course of the last couple of seasons. And I just think there's reason to think that he should have numbers that are even worse than his peripheral stats. If you combine this year and last year, Mikolas is a pitcher with an ERA right around 5. You're only getting 5% projected ownership for the Padres in large field GPPs, which means to me in smaller field stuff in single entry, they're going to be extremely low owned. So those are the teams that overall I have the most interest in on the slate. Rockies, Rangers, Marlins, Padres. I don't want to go to the Coors Field game in single entry. That leaves me in between the Padres and the Rangers. And with it being close between them, I'm going to go to the Padres for lower ownership. But those are the 4 teams I have double-digit exposure to in large field GPPs as well, Eric.
Not a crazy. Yeah, my highest on stack today is 19%. So I've definitely trimmed it down a pretty significant amount. I have Colorado, my highest on stack, Texas number 2. San Diego, I'll give them a little bit of a boost here too, as we're talking about it, because it's worked well when I do stuff like that.
Yeah, and I see this is Ram 33's line, if I'm not mistaken, Jordan. Yeah, looking like a good one there, Ram. I wouldn't change anything.
Oh, boy.
Really high sim ROI.
Oh, boy. Brandon Lowe not in the lineup today for fucking Logan Gilbert. Oh, my God. Logan Gilbert is just going to destroy. Oh, yeah. Look at this. Look at this Tampa lineup.
Let's pull this up. So it is Yandy Diaz, Junior Caminero, Josh Lowe, Chris Morel, Jose Caballero, Taylor Walls, Johnny DeLuca, Jose Siri, Alex Jackson. Yeah, I mean, half the guys in the middle of the lineup, it sounds like a pizza restaurant. And this is not a very, it's not a very daunting lineup that Logan Gilbert's going up against. I mean, Gilbert's already the pitcher who everybody's going to have the most exposure to for the most part. He's hard to get away from.
Yeah, my God. I mean, that lineup could not have come out worse. I'm updating everything on this sheet, and it is, it looks like sheet. I'm talking about the sheet, and that's it.
No, I mean, hey, this is a dog shit lineup. This is a dog shit lineup that should be looking good in your sheet over there, Eric. So, yeah, I mean, we're already playing Logan Gilbert, so it doesn't change all that much, but still, yeah, go ahead and play Logan Gilbert. Joseph Ramirez in the chat asked about a Gilbert ladder. I don't know what his pitching props are. I'll look.
I don't know, but I would bet it now because that lineup is so unbelievably bad, guys. I mean, I was pretty happy with my pitching exposure, and then I just saw Brandon Lowe did not end up when I update my stuff, and I was like, what? And I looked at this lineup, and I'm going through some of the K rates. And Caminero, he's been pretty minimal in terms of strikeout stuff, 21.5% at the big league level so far. But I mean, you get just nobody that can really create any kind of issues. And the one thing that Logan Gilbert from time to time will do is give you up a fly ball or two. 44.7% ground ball percentage is better, but 24% of the time he's still giving up fly balls there on contact. I feel pretty good about the contact of this lineup without the best hitter in it. So he's just getting like a maintenance day or something. Don't know what to tell you other than play Logan Gilbert, and I'm probably going to give him a little bit of a upgrade right now.
So Joseph Ramirez asked about the Gilbert ladder. I just looked up the odds. It is a no for me. What would you guess the odds are for Logan Gilbert to have 9+ strikeouts?
Plus 160.
Plus 172. Plus 330 for him to have 10 strikeouts. There's not enough upside.
No, there's no upside there. And generally, if it's not looking good on BetMGM or FanDuel, just don't bet it because DK, you're never getting a better line. Actually, there was one time that I did get a better line on it, but that was like 1 out of a million times that I bet strikeout props this year.
Let me check Logan Gilbert on DraftKings.
It's never going to be better. It's not.
I'm interested to see though.
Yeah. Again, plus 160. I almost nailed that.
111 strikeouts.
Off the top of my head, that was a pretty good one to just pull out because I mean, you kind of told me to undersell it, but
yeah, plus 310 for him to have 10+ strikeouts on DraftKings.
Yeah,
it's not really playable numbers. Not worthwhile.
It was almost like it was baked in before it happened, if that makes sense. Because like it was a bad bet before, and now it's like a lesser bad bet. Generally, what you want is an efficient number, and then you're reacting to news, and then you're positive EV. And we do that in the NBA all the time. Greg taught me how to do it many, many moons ago when I really got seriously into betting 3 years ago. And he's just like, I'm just going to put money on the spread of this game because, well, it's going to move 6 points, 7 points immediately. And you're getting massive positive EV, or you could get a great middle opportunity. It doesn't exist for this strikeout prop, unfortunately, because it's a one-side market.
Jeff Williams is back to the drawing board tonight. He did not switch his lineup last night. Womp, womp.
Oh.
Yeah. Bailey Ober, any Bailey Ober lineup was dead pretty early yesterday, but he says today he's playing the 762 on DraftKings. His lineup is, let's see, Manaea, Heaney, Stallings, Taglia, Norby, McMahon, Tovar, Hernandez, Sanchez, Aconi. All right, so he's playing the Coors Field game very heavily. I'm playing the 762 tonight, Jeff, as if it is like a single entry field. I think the ownership's going to be pretty comparable. Maybe Coors Field isn't quite as bad there. I'm not playing it in the 762, but pitcher, he's got Heaney, he's got Manaea. I don't like playing Manaea today.
I don't like Manaea today either. I like Logan Gilbert in single entry a lot more than I did before. I'm almost just happy to eat that chalk with this lineup. And then I do like Andrew Heaney or Jeffrey Springs. Probably going to side with Heaney, who I have projected for all of a half fantasy point more. Yeah, I mean, that would be my pitching combo today in single entry. I'm playing 3 max, so I can kind of diversify it a little bit off of that. But I think Gilbert will probably end up in all 3 of those lineups now when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and it looks like this is the lineup. This is Jeff's lineup, right, Jordan? Oh, Capanicello's. All right, so Capanicello's lineup. Yeah, negative 9.5% sim ROI. I don't really love the Dodgers as a stack. I don't love Tobias Myers as a pitcher either. It looks like you have in there Capanicello. So I would recommend that you rebuild that one. Jeff's lineup, if you are, I'll say this, if you are really committed to playing Coors Field today, it makes sense to be contrarian at pitcher and not play Logan Gilbert. Like that's the one scenario where I think that if you're playing like small field stuff, you wouldn't play Logan Gilbert. If you're just jamming the Coors Field game just to get your lineup a little bit different looking. I personally, though, I would rather go to Jeffrey Springs than Sean Manaea.
I would too.
And then Corey Bomber left us a super chat, and Jordan will plug it in. We'll see what the sim ROI is on the lineup. But Corey Bomber says, do the Yankees win today? Most likely.
Yeah, I see that being a high probability outcome.
The game's also already started. But yeah, I think they're like what, like minus 250 favorites or something. The more likely.
Yeah, they were. I was tracking it all day because I was looking for a time to try to jump in like under minus 135 on the run line, and I never got it. I think I missed like a 2-second window where it dropped below it, but yeah.
And then we had Sean. Oh, we have to answer the question from Mr. Coolcam before. He wanted to know what we like for the FanDuel side of things for stack. We're playing a single entry lineup, building one lineup. Which team we go to on FanDuel? The Rockies ownership is even more problematic on FanDuel. Have you seen what it is, Eric? We've got the Rockies projected for 20% ownership as a team. Marlins at 12%. So I actually feel the exact same way on FanDuel. The Rockies and the Marlins, yeah, they're still the teams that are the 2 most likely to be the highest scoring teams. But give me either the Texas Rangers or the San Diego Padres for the discounted ownership. I think both of them look pretty solid. My preference, I lean slightly towards the Padres. Eric, I think before was leaning slightly towards the Rangers. I think both of them look really good, though. So I would go either the Padres or the Rangers, or hey, FanDuel, make a 4-man stack of the Rangers, 4-man stack of the Padres, and then play whichever pitcher fits in with them after that. I think that's a pretty good way to go about building your lineup.
Correct.
And hey, Jeff, your lineup is rating out pretty well here. It does have a 35% sim ROI. So with a rating out that well, I would still say switch Manaea to Springs, but overall the lineup looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think 35%. I mean, somebody's had a 58% starting it up right from the get-go. That is always fun to see. Whenever you're building out in that, it's always nice to be like, oh shit, all right, 50%, 55%. What I'm really excited for is when we're able to do this for like NFL, because I have a feeling we're going to see some crazy sim numbers, not quite like we see in NBA where you can really, really, really see massive edges based on late news and things of that nature. But MLB 50+% for sim ROI. That's about as good as it gets. I mean, that was a phenomenal lineup that we saw right from the get-go.
Let's see. Were there any other questions? Yes, Jordan. There we go. Yeah, so it did end up looking a little bit better there with Springs instead of Manaea. So Jeff overall looks pretty decent. Just swap Manaea to Springs. That's my preference there. We got the question from Sean Jeezy. Wants to know favorite DK stack for 3-4 max. Yeah, if I was playing 4 lineups today, I would make 1 Rocky stack, 1 Marlins stack, 1 Ranger stack, 1 Padres stack.
My buddy just sent me a ticket. He's like, I think this is the way to go because he's watching our show right now. He's over in Iowa. Hi, Thomas. But he's going to bet under 1.5 for runs for the Tampa Bay. He's taking alternate unders on their run or on their score runs on their team total. and I think I like it.
All right. There's another way to play that shitty Rays lineup and going up against Logan Gilbert, because we addressed before, there's no real upside to the ladder of Logan Gilbert. Not to say he can't go out and have 10 strikeouts, just why do you want to bet him for 10 strikeouts at 3-1 odds? We've got some other questions that have come in here.
Okay.
Love Lady J wants us to look at their lineup. I'll send that one over to you, Jordan. I'm texting it to you. And then also Braden, aka Russell, wants to know our most rostered batters from the Coors Field game. So,
oh my God,
Jordan, I'm going to send
Norby
you this
by a
lineup to
mile.
plug in, and then we'll hit on our most rostered hitters from Coors
I'm
Field.
doing one more sim here too, while we're talking about it. I can look at my old one. This Griffin Conine character sounds like a dog, so that's cool, but I want him to hit the ball very, very long and far, apparently. Connor Norby is my second highest owned. Otto Lopez third, Jesus Sanchez fourth, Jake Berger fifth, but they're all north of 20%.
McMahon, Tovar, Blackman are the three that I have the most exposure to overall. Fourth is Connor Norby for me. Really favorable positionality with the second, third base MPE. Those are hitters. Yeah, those four, I have all of them for large fields, GPP purposes, as players that I think should be owned over 20% of the time. McMahon, Tovar, Blackman, as well as Connor Norby. And let's see, were there any other questions? No, Love Lady J, Jordan's going to plug that lineup in, then we'll look at what that's looking like. Are there any really low-owned offenses that you like getting to, or any leverage spots?
Yeah, so what's nice is on this slate, it's not too hard to, like, if you really want to find some leverage, you can certainly get it with a couple of these low owned stacks. I think San Francisco against Milwaukee, it's a huge ballpark upgrade from them going out of San Fran, heading into Milwaukee. This is a stack that I'm overweight to. Has a lot of power in it, has a little bit of speed in it as well. Don't completely hate that. I don't think Tobias Myers is anything special whatsoever. Always nice to see no whiff, 20.8% whiff percentage, and a lot of these strikeout bats, Lamont Wade, Michael Conforto, Heliot Ramos, Matt Chapman, Mike Yastrzemski. If you're not going to strike him out and they're going to make contact, they've been really good. All of them north of 435 expected sluggings for that top five in that lineup. It's bright red on my sheet, and that generally means you should be overweight to it when absolutely nobody is playing it. So San Francisco, a team I'm making a pretty educated stand on.
Let's see. By the way, a Love Lady J lineup looking about neutral to slightly negative. Pitchers, Gilbert Heaney, no real issue there. What is the lineup? What is it? A Diamondback stack? Yeah, so even though I don't like Sean Manaea that much, and Eric also said he didn't like Sean Manaea that much, I'm not necessarily dying to stack against him either. Of my top 150 lineups, 1 out of 150 is an Arizona Diamondbacks in my top stack. If I was playing one lineup, I wouldn't be making a D-back stack today. I'd be looking to, just to recap the teams I said before, either one of the Marlins, the Rockies, the Rangers, or the Padres. Those are the four teams I'd be choosing in between there. Love Lady Jack. Not a terrible lineup, but slightly negative sim ROI there. One thing I do think that we could say there's no real leverage to be had. There's no chalk pitcher I want to stack against, because Logan Gilbert's so popular that he takes away ownership from every other pitcher. The only other pitcher is more than 20% owned is Jack Flaherty. I don't want to stack against either of them.
Nope. I have 0 Tampa Bay Rays players in my lineups as well. Just want to let that be known. I took the entire team out. I just don't see any point. I'm not going to do it.
Any other stacks, hitters, pitchers, anything we haven't hit on that's important to you, Eric? If not, we'll do our home run picks and we'll wrap up for the night.
I'm pretty concentrated. I'm flat in pitching. I'm still not going to be getting up over 55% Logan Gilbert. I just capped him. So that's done. I don't have to think about that anymore, because there's a part of me that almost jammed him. I am very much here for that Texas. I hope that leverage maintains and people don't necessarily jump on that with me too much. San Diego, I do like that. I think that was a great shout out by you. And then the last one, I have a lot of Andrew Heaney, and I think one of the ways that I can kind of protect myself against that is just being a little bit overweight on a White Sox stack, because it's not like Andrew Heaney isn't untouchable. There are definitely enough ways with these cheap bats. That's a team that I'm kind of using as one-offs, 2-mans, 3-mans, spread amongst, not just Luis Robert, but like there's a lot of cheap bats there. So, and some of those non-Andrew Heaney lineups where, again, I have 38% Andrew Heaney. I'm going to be getting to more of the White Sox.
All right. If you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and now home run picks to wrap up the show. So if you guys want to contribute, throw your home run pick for the slate in chat. Don't pick anybody from the Coors Field. I know it's shitty teams at Coors Field, but still, we're going to consider that cheating. So pick somebody outside of Coors Field. Eric, who's your dong pick today?
All right, let's get a little bit nasty, shall we? Corey Seager, he's going to go completely berserk for Texas again today. I think one of my favorite bets I've seen in a long time. 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs for him, -135. Eric, it's a short number. It's left on left. Yeah, everything we talked about with Garrett Crochet still applies. And last Monday, I don't know, he hit double dong on command for me. He is bright red again because there's only one lefty that should be available in this pen for the White Sox. They had one guy go 35 pitches and one go 41 yesterday. You see those kind of pitches, that becomes more of like a long reliever. They're not going to force them into duty. And if you have all righties coming in off the pen for Corey Seager, 2 at-bats tops against Garrett Crochet, I feel really good about 3 at-bats against this White Sox bullpen of just dusty figures. Corey Seager, better than plus 300. Love him as a one-off today, too, in your lineups.
Yeah, I'm going to go with one of my Padres hitters here. I love Corey Seager, too. Seager is actually one of my most rostered hitters on the entire slate. From the Padres, I'm going to go with, here's somebody who's been better this year. Much better this year than you've realized. Jurickson Profar is a 147 WRC plus. He's got already a career high 21 homers. Also, going up against Miles Michaelis, who has seen, I believe this year and last year, the 2 lowest ground ball rates of his entire career. So you got a guy who's given up hard contact. Ball's been getting hit in the air more against him than in previous years. And Jurickson Profar having the best offensive season of his career with a 147 WRC plus. I like Jurickson Profar a good amount as a contrarian play today. He's my dong pick. Let's see what we have from chat. All right, scrolling up here. Clintonwood 83 also going with Corey Seager. Put the fork down is going with Vlad. Kenny Wayne is going with Corey Seager for a double dong. So look at that. I think a lot of people are going to be tailing you on Corey Seager. Oh, no. Nicholas Robertson going with Manny Machado. Chad Rock going with Mookie Betts. Henry Davis is the pick from Joseph Ramirez. Vladdy is the pick from Tripp. Randall Grichuk from Michael Swarik. We've got Jaron Duran from Taste the Skittles and also Adolis Garcia. Connor Joe from Matt Comer. JB Hughes is going with Manny Machado. Nick Gonzalez from Francisco Rubio. Teoscar Hernandez, who I bullied Malukar out of not picking Teoscar Hernandez earlier in the year. He picked Teoscar Hernandez every slate for like the first month of the year. I called him out on it. He's not picked Teoscar Hernandez since. So the breakfast file is going and dipping into the old Malukar. It's a
lefty. I stamp of approval on that. I love the Dodgers today too.
Mark Ventos is the pick from Ricardo Nelson. Conan from Baldy of the Oaf. Duran from Mike Campbell. Josh Young from Doug Dobbs. Mookie Betts from Envious. Jackson Merrill from Christian Johnson. If he does hit a homer, it's probably going to be a walk-off because he seems to do that every other game.
It's a walk-off.
Olson from Hayes. Tristan Cassis from Andre B. Luis Robert from JB Hughes. Kike Hernandez from Aaron Hines. Adolis Garcia from Jay Lovelady. Tristan Cassis from Taco. Travis d'Arnaud from K Thumbs. And then we got Malukar there with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Jordan Klein, bring us home. Who homers today? This is the most important part of the show.
We're going Lars Newbar today.
Lars Newbar.
Is it his birthday today?
Nobody's. Is it Japan's birthday?
If it is, you have a 1 in 365 chance of guessing it correctly. But Lars Newbar, the pick from Jordan Klein. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you've not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. College football sale starts tomorrow. We're going to have our Sims tools going live for college football. I'm going to be making a video later tonight on how to use those tools. So check that out if you guys want more information on it. Good luck with all your lineups. Have a good night. Peace out, guys.